aspects of a business are as important. Ethical leadership, and I mentioned earlier that we talk about the tone from the top. So good corporate governance is essentially about effective ethical leadership. Starts with each individual director who set the tone. And the point is, if directors behave unethically, then they should be removed from the board. No organization can actually afford to have an unethical director. That's when graft and fraud and everything comes in. And King 4 explains that governance of ethics is the role of the governing body, in other words, the board. I've just brought this back and read the things that we've been talking about, because governance is about providing sustainable solutions, not just property for people, but people, climate, etc., and trustworthy. Professor Mervyn King, who wrote it was inspirational in all the King 4s. I won't say he sat down and wrote every word, but certainly wrote Notice of King 1, and then has been on the committees that have refined and built on them. He says there are two things that keep company directors awake. The first one, climate change. We think we all knew that. But the other one, and this coming from a totally non-IT person, this surprised me, cybersecurity. And while I've been talking about IT professionalism, cybersecurity is all part of that. Certainly it's all part of IT governance. The board cannot say to themselves, we've got a cybersecurity team that we pay really well. We've got a CISO heading it up, we're okay. They can't assume that everything's okay, and they don't. So that's why it keeps them awake at night as well, because they don't know enough about it. So they need to find out more. And they probably also don't know enough about climate. And in corporate reporting these days, they have to report on sustainability. So again, not just financial reporting, but sustainability. This is just a quote from a past president of AFRIC, which also talks about cybersecurity and how cyber resilience is also a duty of the team. So everybody who's an IT professional has that duty to ensure cyber resilience. And that's me. Thank you very much for your attention. I haven't got any cards, believe it or not. I did have my little card holder and I thought I packed them and I didn't. But I decided this morning that it doesn't matter, because business cards are so last century. Connect to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Thank you.
So are we going to do a little question time? You all come up here, the presenters. Then yes. Okay, so but once again, a round of applause for Moira. Right. Ethical behavior, very key for organizations. IT governance, very key as well. But I was just thinking, what do you think is going through the mind of a cybersecurity expert who had a role as an ethical hacker and got fired by Elon Musk in Twitter? Yes.
The star. Somebody says, oh, well, we're talking
Yeah. Is that also another question? How much trust do you have in your ethical hacker in the organization? And what does it take to trigger them to go down? Anyway, that's just a question. Now, the next speaker is Amit. Now, Amit is from Morocco. Amit Jekanov is a solution engineering manager, leading a team that covers the SADC region. He's been involved in the big data solutions in telco, justice and he's worked in justice and public safety in SADC, while also training IT professionals, academia, and big data within the region. He's also a blockchain champion for the SADC region with over 19 years of experience in working with Oracle technologies. Amit held a number of roles in the retail sector and public utilities before joining Oracle. Amit holds a degree in computer applications and an MBA from the University of Surrey. He also holds a diploma in hardware engineering and also an Oracle certified professional in database. He's also certified on tracking and challenges of big data from MIT. A round of applause for Amit as he comes up.
Yeah.
So we are in with the top. The next tech frontier.
Thank you.
Thank you. You got a trigger there?
No, I'll prefer to walk. Yeah, I'll show them together. Thank you very much. So, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you all. So I'll be covering a bit on the new tech frontier. So just bear with me a bit. My throat is, a bit acting up. So if you hear me coughing a bit, that's just a bit acting up. As a typical IT professional, we try the typical way: on/off reboot, not working. Let's see. So I'm just going to be talking about a few things. Yeah. One thing is we're talking about data-driven. I mean, lots of my fellow presenters were talking about data as the new oil, data, which is important. And why is it important? How do you use the data makes it important? And what is the value for cyber criminals makes it a value? Maybe just to give you a bit of what we're doing as Oracle within the data sphere, I'll relate it to sports, might be more interesting. Any followers of Formula One? Formula One, yeah. So Red Bull Racing, yeah. Mercedes. But we are the other one. So this is where we are working. We have, let's take a Formula One car. We have 300 sensors, which is on real-time giving stats or what needs to be done. So this is data-driven in action, ability to do that. Let's take something else. Sailing, sales GP. Anyone follow sailing? I know we're a bit off from the course, but that also where we use analytics. Other thing, football fans. Football. So if you've been watching maybe Premier League or any of the football matches, you might see stats about the football match, what's going on. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you would see it's powered by Oracle, the analytics. So this is where we are also talking about data-driven, ability to use data real-time. It's nothing that people are inputting. It's all automated and giving you real stuff. So this is just a bit of giving you how enabling data-driven. Now, what are the challenges to become data-driven? We're talking about data, we're talking about using data, but what are the challenges? And I would just wanted to take a simple thing first, is we have a lot of databases. What we've seen is we are tending to, for each type of, if I'm putting a transaction data system, I would take one type of data. If I have a document, NoSQL kind of storage, I would take something else. So, and then data warehouse is different, specialized is different. So what are we doing here? We are putting specific solutions for a specific thing. I would take an analogy here, which might make it more in context. I don't know how many of you remember old phone, Nokia 3310. I don't know, anyone has used that? I have used that. Very, very nice phone. So that was 10 years back. I would, if I had that phone, I wouldn't have my GPS. GPS was used to be TomTom or something. Maybe I wouldn't have my camera. I would need to carry my camera. Maybe everything else would be queuing, browsing. All of that was not possible. So this is the analogy we're using, that this is what is happening, which is not enabling us to be data-driven. Oracle, the way we're looking is, what if we take that Nokia 33 and we make it the mobile phone of today, where everything can sit in a single database. Whatever be the type of data, whatever it can be, should be able to sit in a single storage. So if that happens, what happens? It becomes easier to access your data, to use the data. So this is a fundamental shift in terms of thinking of how do we manage data. And we're not talking only about structured, semi-structured. We're talking about unstructured data also. So this is where we're looking at making that easy. So I just wanted to take a simple example, just to give you a bit of context, how it works. So say you have a groundbreaking application. You're very happy. You say, now I want to make it location area. So what you would need to do, if you're using specialized databases, you would need to put another store where you're putting spatial data. Then after some time, you would need to start giving reports. How is it working? So now you might find the need that maybe I have to build a data warehouse. That goes on the system. So again, one more system to manage. After a while, you say, what about IoT? We need to have IoT capabilities. So on the system that comes in. CFO, now where we talk about security, cybersecurity. Now the CFO says, CEO says, what about security risk? How do you protect all of that? So you can see as your landscape starts becoming bigger, securing them becomes more difficult as well. And then what about disaster recovery? So the bigger landscape you have to ensure the disaster recovery becomes more complex. And then of course, we are now talking about AI, machine learning. So how do we make it smart? So when you start in all of that, this is where we're seeing the challenges of data driven, because we are having so many storage of data, structured, unstructured, some on the laptop, some in Excel sheets. How do we make use of all that data? So this is a challenge we see. So how can Oracle's converged database help? Just to give you an idea, we have the same I'm taking the example of 96. So everything is already embedded: security, performance, scalability, resiliency. What we talk about now is what if you can put different workloads, all multiple workloads on a single storage? What if you can put all different data types on a single database? So be it spatial, be it graph, be it blockchain. We've been talking about blockchain. It's good to understand because I've been representing blockchain also. So it's good to understand that we've seen a lot of project blockchain not picking up because of the complexity of setting up the blockchain. So this is where we have, even Oracle has a blockchain, enterprise blockchain platform. But what we have also seen is we have also put in the blockchain enabled tables within Oracle database as well. So if you want to start leveraging on a blockchain like something that is immutable, that you cannot delete, this is where we started putting that within that. So that's a value we are adding within that. So again, now within data science and analytics, we have put ML algorithms inbuilt within the database. Spatial and graph is what we said free. So whichever editions of Oracle database you use, AI machine learning is free. Spatial and graph is free, included in that. So as to make it easier to be more, data driven. And then we're also talking about blockchain and JSON. All of that you can store in the same application. So if I want to summarize it a bit, so you would be able to store DBMS, graph, key value, document, spatial, time series, all on a single database. You don't need separate. So streaming data, IoT data, all sits in a single system. And then, of course, you would see down all the benefits. So performance, we're talking about scalability, consistent security, less integration, all of that is on a single system. So when you see this system, you might say, well, it's going to be complex. How do I manage that? How do I build systems? So I just wanted to quickly tell you one point. All the models can seamlessly coexist in, for those who are more technical, same schema in a Oracle database or multiple schemas. That means you don't have to plan beforehand. As you go, as the business grows, you can scale and put whatever you need on the same platform. Next, you've put all of that different data types in a single database. How do you access that? That's the next question. So very important, we decided that we should make access of data very easy. so that you are able to leverage. So all the data, whatever the data types, you would be able to access that through SQL or REST services. And we also give you the opportunity or the flexibility to use specific model-specific data access, like SODA, PGQL, SparkQL, XQuery, all of that you can use. But the value is if you're writing an SQL statement, you are able to pull from all the different schemas, so whatever the data type it is. And it goes a bit more. I'll come to that point as well. So example, I just wanted to take a small example. Say you have you want to do a 360-degree view of your customer. And for this example, let's say you want to find the friends of your customers who are liking a movie. So the customer's friends, you're keeping it in a graph format because you need to know, from one customer who are his friends. So that's the graph model. And then you want to identify who have watched similar movies. That is typically JSON. And then those who are providing, key 5-star rating, that's a key value. So you write a single SQL statement and you will be able to pull all of that information. We can go further than that. What about, you can ask me now, very good, what about unstructured data? So within Oracle database, we're also putting something which is called external tables. If you have, data sitting in Hadoop or in a NoSQL, or you're having in a cloud storage, you can also use the same SQL to pull from Oracle database as well as what data is sitting outside of Oracle database. So this is what makes it as a unified approach to do. You don't have to go write different queries for different systems. You write one single query, which is pulling from database, from object storage, from SQL, from Hadoop, wherever your data is sitting. So this is the value we are bringing in terms of how do you manage data. So this big shift in terms of how we think of storing the data and accessing the data. So just to summarize on these points. So when we're looking at single purpose databases, it's more hard to share data, while this one is easy to share data. We're also looking at manageability. It's easier to manage. We look at APIs more complex, while this one you have API choice, but you can use one single SQL statement. We're also looking at security, very important. The more spread your landscape is, the more touch points you need to secure. So that also becomes a higher cost and also skill set that is required. And then we're also talking about resources. So once you put everything in that same resource, you're going to use a lower footprint. You don't need that many machines, and you can consolidate all of the information. Also, tomorrow, if you want to go to the cloud, you can also do hybrid. So you can put part on cloud, part on premise, or you can, once it's consolidated, it's easier to move to the cloud if your journey is to the cloud. So that's the value it brings. I just wanted to quickly also touch on, because we've been talking about, a lot of my fellow presenters been talking about security. So I just wanted to quickly touch also security, which I think is very important. And the way we look at it is the zero trust model. So what it is, it has 5 pillars. What are the 5 pillars that you need to look when you're looking at security? There's identity, there is device, there's network environment, and there's applications and the data. I want to just put emphasis on the data for the moment, because this is where everything sits. This is what is most critical. This is what attackers are going to target. So for us to understand how it works, I think it will be good to understand a typical scenario. IT, you would have maybe a database. That database is going to be stored on a server. You would have applications which is going to apply, access that database through a network, LAN or WAN. You have users are connecting to that system. You have maybe a standby DR system, and you would have test development and systems which are also accessed by different vendors outside. So this is a typical scenario. You would also be doing backups. Backups, maybe doing the backups and sending it to a standby or DR. You would have admins, of course, administrators. Most of you might be already administrators. Administrator of either the application, or administrator of the server, or administrator of the database. So different roles. Now, how would an attack take place? This is from what we've been seeing. First thing, we would try to attack the admins. If you've been following a bit, social engineered attacks, trying to get the credentials, because they're privileged users, all the admins are privileged users. If I can get their credentials and use that, easy. Now you might ask me, how can that happen? Right now, if I want to know who is a DBA in any company, do you think it's possible? Any company. Just go to LinkedIn. I know who is a DBA. He's also posting which system he looks after. Easy. I know which system he's looking after. Now I say, okay, what about his password? I go to Facebook. Picture of his kid, picture of his wife, dates, wedding, and the cat's name, the dog's name. I use a combination. This is what happens. This is what we talk about social engineering attacks. So, but if you protect that already, that privileged user is not supposed to have what he's not supposed, you are reducing one level of risk. And I sometimes I talk to some customers, they say, it's not going to happen to me. I say, the cybercrime industry, how it is. I don't know if you've been following, those of you who have followed, they have been dismantling some of the, hacking side places. And it was like a call center, 1,000 people sitting, paying the tax, and professional going to office, and their job was to hack. So it is very much an industry. You have to be prepared for that. We're not talking about one person who's sitting behind his laptop. I'm talking thousands of people sitting in a call center and doing that job. So you have to think about that, what the risk level. Second thing, I think this one will be typical. You know that. I think most of us have received that phishing email. Try to get your credentials, try to get access. So that's a typical one. Also, exploit applications. One of the typical ways we talk about is maybe SQL injection attacks. It seems very legitimate to the database, but it is coming because it's coming from the application. But that's a SQL injection attack. We're also talking about attacking the network. So I know we have other centers who are going to talk about security. That's also one aspect. Exploit the database. I have had so many customers. I talk to them. I say, is your database up to date on patch? He said, it may be 1-2 years back in patches. No critical patch has been applied. So, and then he's opening and he wants to do digital transformation to give access to users to start connecting. But this is where you're increasing your level of risk. This is how you should be, already handling that. Then bypass system administration, exploit the OS. I don't know how many of you know, if I am somebody who has no access to the database, no access at all, but I have access to the server where the database is sitting, I can use a grep command or there was the other command, but we can just open the data file and see all data in that without having access to the database. So imagine now a ransomware attack taking place in your network. That ransomware attack is not going to use anything credentials of the database. It's going to go through the OS and to target your data files, block the data files, block you out. Then you would say, what happened? How do I restore my data? And they would try to also not target just your production, target all your copies. That's how they try to do. And this is where we come in and to explain what kind of things you should be looking at. We're also talking about targeting the data copies. So if you have different copies, again, sharing from my experience, I asked some customers, okay, how is your cloud system going? Your test and dev environments. He said, I get requests quite often. So I just do a clone and keep it there. I said, but all your sensitive data, you're just cloning it and giving to developers and maybe somebody external. So this is how they get access. I don't need to concentrate on this side. I can concentrate on your dev and test environments. You might think that, this is something basic or something that, I don't know, it's a bit back to the case I use, the Snowden attack. I don't know if you know. How did he get access? He was working as a contractor. He was working for a contractor of NSA. NSA gave a clone of their database. to that contractor. And he was working for that contractor. And this is where he copied the data. He didn't have to go hack the NSA. It's simpler just to take a copy. So this is where we are looking at challenges. And then, of course, the most easy one is also backup. A lot of you might be keeping tape backups somewhere. Not encrypted, easy. I just try to steal the backup, restore that, I get all your data. Why should I be spending so much of effort and all that? So these are the points which is very important to understand, what are the touch points first, so that then you understand how to protect that. So what we look at it as, when we talk about the zero trust, we also have something which term as maximum security architecture. How do we protect you? So very first thing, we're looking at very important thing. That's a tool which is freely available for you yourself to do, or you can get back to us or to our partners. A DP security assessment. You can run that on your system yourself. It will give you reports, what is in red, what is in yellow, what is in green. So you know where all your risk points already. And this is something we recommend you to run, at least each month, because your posture keeps changing. So if you need our help, we are also here. It's a free exercise. We also, there's no charge for us. We help all our customers to run that because we want our customers to be secure through using our product. So that's something you can get to us or to our partners. Or if you have skilled DBAs, they can run that themselves. Second, once you've done it's in green. Once you've done the evaluation, you understand the risk posture. Now you start protecting. One of the basic things, again, ransomware attack. Amazing basic one is encrypt your database. That's the most basic things you have to do. So encryption of your database is very important. Encrypt the data so that when a ransomware enters your network, it should not. Now, I think I'm shipping something. I just got a customer who got back to us and said, I encrypted my database. And there was a DBA, the DBA left. I don't know where's the keys. How do I restore my database? It's a bit the concept analogy I use is you locking the room and you're keeping the keys outside the room. So it's important when you're locking the room, you keep the keys also in a secure place where not only it's secure, only the person who needs to access that, but in the case of a disaster or you're losing this room, their keys should be somewhere else also. You should be able to access that. So this is where we have come the concept of key vault. Keeping your keys, all your security keys, because all products, security products use keys. So you have to keep that in a typical mode. What we also look at is redaction at source. If people is not supposed to see something, most of the things we do it at application, but we can also do redaction at source. So whatever tools you use when you're accessing the data, you would still not see what you're not entitled to see. Of course, we are talking about network encryption. We're also talking about strong authentication. I know a lot of customers who are not enforcing password policies, at least ensure, change of password, more complex passwords. Important. The social engine attacks, this is how it happens. There was, I don't know if you've been following, there's Ochikan, I think the name, Ochikan, which is a big telco in Australia. 1 month back, it was attacked because of password. It didn't enforce password policies, it kept default passwords. And 20 million records was taken out. So simple things, which is very important in the situation. And please don't think that I'm in Zimbabwe, nothing is going to happen here. No, don't think that. Once the attackers see there's a potential, they would see the GDP, what's happening. That's what they would see. Definitely don't just think nothing is going to happen. Then also very important is masking your target, your backup copies. I mean your non-production formats. At least ensure that whatever sensitive information is on top cannot be something which is sensitive information. And then we're also talking about enterprise manager. It's a free tool. You do your configuration, and then you also see your compliance. Example, you have a DBA who comes and you've seen he's changing parameters. Is that something which should be done? If you have enabled security tools and he's disabling the security tools, should it be happening? So that also is important. it might be not the DB doing that, but it might be somebody who has access. He's now disabling all your security tools so that he can do something and he will re-enable that. Are you able to track that? So it's important if you're able to track that. Important. And then we also talking about something which is called database firewall. Now, this is different from a normal firewall. A normal firewall, you know whatever traffic is coming, it would allow. Now, I take the example of a SQL injection attack. Application is talking to your database, legitimate. A normal firewall is not going to stop that because it's a legitimate, source and target. This is where a database firewall would be able to read the SQL which is coming, understand if it's an attack, block that up. So this is where we see a database firewall. Now, I have been also a DB. I know that if I do some changes, I'm able to also, remove my track, whatever I have done, maybe to go from the logs. So what happens is also important is you log everything in what we term as audit mode. It's a read only, which is separate from a database, at least whatever is happening at the database, at the operating system, at the firewall, all of that is logged in the same appliance in a read-only mode. So you're gonna come and delete from there. So that at least gives you the view of what is happening around. And that vault can automatically send you alerts, reports, alerts. You can configure everything that you want in that. And then, of course, whatever is happening at the firewall also would be going on that. And then we are talking about few of the features which you already have. VPD, virtual private database, label security, all of that are tools which is within database which you can use. So with that, one more thing which is very important. Single sign-on. We're talking about single sign-on. How many of you have different passwords for different systems? I don't know, maybe 5, 6 passwords. Now, if I want to enforce password policy, it becomes more difficult because the person has to remember for 5, 6 systems, he has to keep changing that. But if you ensure that all the passwords can be collated into one single username password to connect to all the systems, then this is where you then enforce, more difficult password or something which is called multi-factor authentication or even adaptive. What is adaptive? It understands what is the location I'm trying to connect from. Say I'm connecting from Zim today, tomorrow I'm going to connect you from Russia. Is that correct? Should I be given a further, something, as a challenge question? So this is where we're talking about adaptive. So that way, at least if somebody has got access from outside trying to access, you would be challenged with that. So this is as a comprehensive what we see as a maximum security architecture. So thank you very much for your time. I hope it's been insightful. I've also put my email. Yeah, if you want to reach out, please feel free. We are also at the back if you want to have a chat. If you have time, we also have a demo. This time I didn't share that, but if you want to see a demo of how we enable encryption on the go, enable, disable, it doesn't have any impact on the application. I have all of that, so please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you again for your time. The pointer.
So thank you, Mitch. You sent us spiraling into fear, cybersecurity, then landed us safely on with the solutions of how we can protect ourselves. But again, there is never going to be 100% protection. But one thing which came out, especially for ICT professionals, which I would like to reiterate, is patching. It's extremely important that you follow religiously patching. Why is this important? Because the suppliers of your software, this is where they add in security patches. So it's important. If you haven't done that, if you're behind in your patching, please go back and make sure that you catch up and be up to date with your patching. So he gave us again a lecture on analytics. How many of us are actually collecting the data and analyzing it? Are we just collecting the data, then outsourcing somebody to analyze that data for us, then give us a report, later on, maybe 36 days later? Or you're using tools which give us feedback in real time to be able to then use that into either reinventing our business models, adjusting them. So it's something which you need to start discussing when you go back to say, are we really looking into our data and analyzing it, and what value are we getting out of it? As Dr. Nigel said initially, the new goal is what? Data. All right, without further ado, let me introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Blessing Zozi, and Blessing is the head of digital transformation for CSZ Health Group, and he's an experienced digital transformation change management specialist. Customer experience and operations manager with a demonstrated history of working in the telecoms, mining, engineering industry for more than 10 years. She has vast exposure and skills in business strategy, product development, e-commerce, digital business being gained over the years. Her current experience is in the medical healthcare industry and hopes to make a difference through the implementation of technology trends within the organization. Her education background spans from business management, project management, digital business change management, and is a certified professional Scrum Master. Put your hands together for Blessing. You have a clicker, the tech team? Yeah.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So they've done the walking up and about, but the heel of my shoe will create a disaster here. So yeah, so thank you so much for this opportunity. So my topic is transforming trends into innovation and action. And I'm currently at CSZ Health Group. So just to begin, for us, I think transformation is something that even happens on an individual capacity. We're definitely not the same people we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So therefore, transformation is a continuing event or a continuing process that happens. So for us, we then need to be able to transform our organizations as well as us as individuals to be able to understand the trends that are there, as well as to see how we can incorporate them into our day-to-day living. So we can't speak about digital transformation and innovation without speaking about the digital vortex. So we do know that some industries are obviously ahead others, with technology being number one, media and entertainment being number two. My current industry is number 9. So it's clearly showing us that whether we like it or not, all the industries that we are currently working with will be forced to transform one way or the other. So the benefits of innovation ideally is in eliminating silos. I'm also going to be speaking on just what we as CMAs are going through or have experienced. So you see that ideally people usually work in their own separate departments. But you then see that with innovation, it forces you to have cross-functional teams, which hopefully or ultimately should eliminate silos. The other benefits of innovation is increased agility and just the innovation itself, because you're able to respond fast and you're able to act fast. There's also an improved customer strategy, because they always say that the customer is king. So with innovation, you're trying to improve the customer experience and seeing also how you can just make sure that you're speaking to the voice of the customer. Another benefit of innovation is universal customer experience, because you're forced to look at all aspects of your business, whether it's your traditional customer journey, or your digital customer journeys. You're then forced to do a 360-degree evaluation. And then ideally, innovation should reduce costs. The reduction in cost may not be immediate, but definitely in the short to long term run, you then are supposed to be able to at least realize the monetary value or reduction. So it's also important for us to also speak on why innovation fails. You'll see that a lot of organizations who try and innovate or try and do digital transformation, there's a high failure rate. And it's also just based on a number of things. So number one would be a lack of a unifying strategy. We speak innovation, we speak digital transformation, but are we actually cascading that down to all the levels of the organization? Lack of organizational buy-in. Yes, people in the C-suite or ExCo may understand what it is that we're trying to do with innovation, but does everyone else know and do they understand the importance of the need to innovate? Siloed technology. I will also speak, for example, with CMOS, we have quite a lot of systems that we're using, which are not integrated. So you then see that when you try and then respond to what is happening in the external environment, or you are trying to innovate, you're not able to respond as fast or as much as you'd like to. So sometimes your pace to innovation becomes a bit slower. Then I think we've spoken about data not too long ago, whereby sometimes we have the data, but we don't manage it appropriately. We don't analyze it. Therefore, the information that we need, we actually might have it, but because we're just not managing our data, we are not able to innovate fast enough. And for me, what is quite dear to me is this whole change management aspect. Sometimes people say that they're comfortable with the way that things are, or my salary comes at the end of the month, so why do I need to change? So when our behavior doesn't change, it makes it difficult for us to be able to innovate. We don't see the value in it. And then just sometimes it's also the lack of expertise internally. So I'll also then just be speaking on how we as CMOS have tried to tackle our digital transformation exercise, as well as our innovation efforts. So sometimes also focusing only on technology is the cause of failure. Having no dedication from senior management, the inability to scale, assuming innovation is a once-off event, that if we innovate today, that's going to be enough. We all know that each and every year, or at this rate, each and every month, there's new technology that is being rolled out. Therefore, we might be focusing on something today, but highly likely next year, this time around, that technology has changed, or it has become obsolete, or they just now new things on the market. And then also just having an unspoken disagreement among top managers about goals. You then see that if you have different business units chasing different things, obviously others may be focusing on innovation, others may be focusing on the bottom line, others may be focusing on customer experience. We know the people and culture or HR department is also focusing on the employees. So it's also important to make sure that there's that alignment about the goals. And I think the most important thing is ignoring customer experience. So I will now speak on what we as CMOS have been doing and are currently doing as we understood the importance of this. So we needed to do an organizational restructuring. And in this, we were able to understand the importance of digital transformation, innovation, as well as customer experience. And we were able to then create different departments within the organization to actually speak to the efforts of CMOS towards this. We also are currently, as we speak, undergoing a digital transformation project since 2019. It hasn't been easy, but it's been quite interesting, and I am proud to have been a part of that. So you then see what we needed to do was to look at the current systems that we had within the organization, within the organization, and then we realized that some we needed to change. So in us also doing that, we understood that we then had to actually make noise about this to be able to get buy-in from all levels within the organization. We're not anywhere near done, and it's definitely going to take us time, but then we are happy and proud that at least we started it. Then for us with innovation, it was also key to then say there's so many things happening in the healthcare industry. We spoke about Internet of Health things, we spoke about telemedicine. for us, we were a business that was really affected by COVID-19 because we have clinics, we have labs, and we have front offices in which our members would come in and swipe and make their payments. So we were also then forced to innovate and see how we can capitalize on the pandemic, as well as ensuring that we were still offering services. So we're then able to come up with medicine delivery services. We have an app for that. Also being able to offer telemedicine solutions. So that was us trying to be innovative. Then we understood that we were not a subject matter expert in this. So we also had to get knowledge from outside the organization. So for example, we have a consultant who's assisting us in our digital transformation project, so that we then try and ensure that at least we are able to maximize the value from this. Then importantly, we were the first organization in Zimbabwe to be ISO 27001, 2013 certified on information security. Considering that we do have people's health records and that information, it was also important for us to ensure that our data is secure, or we continue to put in efforts to ensure that at least with all this information, cybersecurity and so forth, we are at a position whereby we feel comfortable, our service providers feel comfortable, as well as our members. So to speak to people in the room, with reference to innovation, there are internal initiatives that you in your organizations or businesses can try and explore. So there's what we call innovation challenges. For us, these have worked, whereby we dangle the fruit to employees, of course, whereby we then reward people who come up with innovation challenges. So we even have buy-in right at the top at the CEO's level. And then we also communicate and share the innovations that internal staff have also come up with. And then what we also do is we also are trying to promote citizen development on Power Apps with our employees. So we're also then just promoting people to also develop apps on their own. Another important thing that you could do as an organization is to set up an innovation committee, which will obviously be cross-functional team that could then work together, looking at the different aspects or different areas within your organization, and then also ensuring that at least there's also buy-in and contribution from the different departments within the organization. Then also using agile project management methodologies. I know in some areas such as construction and engineering, this might not apply, but however, for those organizations that are more tech-centric, this will also then help, because at least you know you're developing an iteration, you're releasing as you go, you're fixing any bugs as you go or as you launch. So this will also then help your scale and your speed to the markets. Then also having an internal development team also helps. Sometimes we do engage external service providers, but sometimes their response isn't as fast as they would like to be. So for example, let's just say you have a mobile app and you need something changed. The level of urgency that you have within your organization might not align, but at least if you then have a team in-house that will be able to respond fast, definitely that will also help with the internal initiatives. And then also exploring having an internal innovation hub. I think it's this could work for organizations that might be tech-centric or fintech, obviously, because you then have the capacity to do so. As CMOS, we did try and explore this, but we then understood that at that present moment, it wasn't the best for us. But obviously, if you then have the agility and the appetite to be developing fast, this could work for you. And then what's also just important is research. And for me, that's part of my portfolio. So it was also nice seeing Tawanda here, because we even had engaged them as we were also just exploring drone technology, with medicine delivery within Zimbabwe. We also looked into virtual reality for our various clinics that we have, so that at least people will be able to immerse themselves in these locations without physically being there. We're also in the process of rolling out robotic process automation within the organization. There are some manual processes that we're trying to automate. So this is also a result of just research that we've done trying to speak to these technologies as well. Then with innovation, yes, we were speaking about internal innovation sources, but now we also need to look externally because not everyone within the organization knows what you need to do. Sometimes some of the good ideas are from people that are outside the organization who are not biased and may see things from a different light. So we hold annual hackathons in which we speak to people outside the organization. We obviously give them our problem ideas and ask them to come and contribute to what can be done. So you see, for our hackathon last year, we engaged an innovation hub that was able to assist us in that, and we're able to get 6 ideas which we're currently prototyping in-house. Then this year, we decided to do it a little bit different and we targeted universities. So for example, this year we did our hackathon with HITS. Same thing again, we gave them our problem idea and then they gave us solutions, which we're also now starting to analyze and assess to see what we could potentially implement. So the key part to this is sometimes the way to go about it is also seeking help from outside. You can also partner with universities. This could be hackathon way or just even any other way in which you know there's a pool of people who can work with the technologies that you have. This could be something else. And then you can have consultations with other organizations, other bodies that will be able to assist you with your problem ideas. So for thank you so much. Yeah. So for us, how we also then measure our initiatives based on the innovation and the digital transformation that we're trying to do, we look at our customer and employee complaints because you also need to have some feedback of some sort. We measure our net promoter score as well as our employee promoter score. We try and train our employees as much as we can. And sometimes you also then see if we're doing a good job based on the job mistake. So when you measure, you discover something, an idea or a solution or an innovation, you experiment, you have to try it out. You need to play around with it. You scale up and embed if this is something that you then decided that you need to implement within your organization. And then you just need to track the value based on the effort you've put in, the time, as well as the financial aspect of it. We can't speak about innovation and digital transformation without speaking about the people. So it's important to upskill. Personally, I try not to upskill myself, but funny enough, every year I see myself doing something. So I'll be like, you know what, this will be the last year, the next year something comes up. So it's also important to do that within your organization as individuals, obviously in the room. Things are changing every single day. So you also need to be aware and alert of what's happening. You also need to create an environment or an enabling culture. We may speak about innovation, but if we don't put money into it, if we don't put support into it, if we don't put buy-in into it, we are highly likely wasting our time. Then the responsibilities and the roles have to be clear with reference to who's doing what within the organization. So for us as CMS, you see that in terms of upskilling, our training was haphazard previously in the past, but we were able to implement a learning management system that helps us track the upskilling of our employees. So at least with this, it makes it easier to reward people who score highly on the leaderboard and able to then just also evaluate this when it's time to, do your balance scorecards. Your KPIs also then become clear because you have something to track your progress. And then rewards. We reward people who innovate. So I'm the change management lead for the organization. So what we then do is we then say when innovations come through, we openly communicate and share what has been developed. as well as how we reward. So you see, the smallest thing as a voucher also can make a little motivating factor. So I know it's old school to dangle the little carrots, in front of the rabbit, but for some way, somehow, some of these things do work. So it's also then just important to have a reward structure, especially if you then do decide to formalize your innovation process. Then the importance of change management. So you'll see that when we started our digital transformation project, we completely forgot about the change management aspect. So you then see that there were things that we were trying to implement within the organization, but we were not understanding each other in terms of all the different levels and all the different people within the organization. So you then see that it was then important to appoint a change management lead who was then going to move with the organization. But you see that with this change management lead, is just not the employees, even as well as for our members and our service providers, because remember, we're changing our systems and we're changing the way that we work. So, we now have mobile applications, which we didn't have 4 years ago. We are now having, for example, people can pay for their subscriptions online. So it's also been a process to be able to change and manage our key stakeholders. Then what we've also done is to also have a change management team. We term the change management champions within the group. So these are people that also try and communicate all the changes that are happening in the organization, especially those that are relating to the technology. And it's also important to just have a change management blueprint with a manifesto so that you also track how effective your change management initiatives are. So our lessons learned as themas is that innovations do not have to be award-worthy. When we started trying to put innovation, people were scared because people were like, how do I then come up with an idea that has never been thought of? But for us, the way that we approach it is to say, as long as it's new within CMAS, it's an innovation. You might have researched about it, heard about it from next door, but let's come and implement it within CMAS. Also learned that we need to measure our KPIs against strategy. So because of that, we actually had to rework our strategic imperatives so that we then speak to things like customer experience, innovation, digital transformation, to ensure that at least as we are pushing our 5-year strategy, we ensure that we are adjusting as we go. We also learned that you will develop a plan which will eventually change. So the plan that we had in 2019, unfortunately, has had to change, and that's just because of the pandemic, as well as to just the rate of change that's happening within the tech industry. We realized again that people are the most important asset in any organization, hence us also pushing change management, rewarding employees, because you can buy the latest tech gadgets, you can have the latest systems, but if you're not taking care of the people, that equipment and all that investment may go to waste. We also learned that you need to learn, apply, and relearn. That change that's happening externally is happening so fast. So we may learn something today, try and implement it tomorrow, but by the time that we get to maybe January 2023, things have changed. So then we need to relearn and continue the cycle. And then taking the first step is greater than wishing, hoping, and waiting for the right time, because the right time will never come. So we then just need to make the most of it. So we started in our journey. It hasn't been easy. It's been quite interesting, but we are glad that we started. So when we are unlocking success and innovation, focus on the customer, have a culture of innovation, ensure that your prioritization is done correctly, have sponsorship and alignment. This is quite important because you can't innovate with no budget. There has to be a budget for innovation. You then see, and a budget, you can't then say, for example, you want to put 5,000 for the whole year. It will also then just show that maybe your risk appetite is a bit low. Yes, we want to play it safe, but in order to be able to make moves, you then need to ensure that you have a budget for innovation. You also need to make sure that your strategy and vision are aligned. There's the technology as well that needs to come into place. Focus on data and focus on quick wins to get momentum going and enable your people to become resilient, not just resilient. So as I close my presentation, questions people ask when it's time to innovate is, what if we fail? What if the technology gets outdated? What if we lose money? What if the employees do not like it? The bottom line is, there's a way to do it better. Find it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Blessing. So I'm sure you appreciated the presentation, digital transformation, innovation, and questions will come up. If you run a hackathon, do you reward those who have given you ideas which were then adopted, those school kids? Do you allow them to patent what they have given you? Then they receive royalties from something you have deployed in your organization. Something to think about. But also, as we go through the digital transformation of our own organizations, there is the speed of the industry which we sit in. If that outpaces our digital transformation agenda, how do we react? Because we could be having a digital transformation project, and not everybody is talented. And as we slow down, the industry speeds right ahead of us. So what was an innovation that time we thought about, it's no longer innovation. But anyway, that's something for discussion later on when we do question time. Let me do some switch off. Hold on while I get myself organized. All right, so the next speaker is Martin Muzadze. Now, he's a senior IT manager with more than 20 years of experience in designing, developing, implementing, and leading ICT projects. Martin? Oh, there he comes. All right, let's give him a hand as he comes. Because of you.
Afternoon, delegates. Great. All right, my name is Martin Zazi from Daniel Mutande Investments. So Daniel Mutande is a licensed internet access provider, and I think we're mandated to build and operate telecommunications infrastructure across the country. And we have a responsibility to enable our customers to disrupt and dominate the markets in which they operate. So when we're asked to come and present a topic aligned with the theme of the conference, rethinking the future, leveraging on emerging technologies, as we looked at issues of leveraging on emerging technologies, we saw that the bedrock, I think, of all technologies that we want to take advantage of is connectivity. Without connectivity, I do not think any of these technologies will give us any benefits. Aligned with that, we then realized that we would like to come and share with you information and the benefits and value you can get from deploying SD-WAN. SD-WAN standing for Software Defined Wide Area Network. I think this is a buzzword that has been going around for the last 5-6 years. And what has happened is that Africa in Zimbabwe in particular, has been left behind. We've remained using the traditional wide area network technologies as the rest of the world has also been moving forward. And what you now find is that's why you see most of these emerging technologies, they are being rapidly adopted in the first world rather than in Africa and in particular in Zimbabwe. So my presentation is just to show you a bit about SD1 and to give you the confidence to be able to start on this journey. Okay, so obviously in a crowd like this, we have people with varying levels of knowledge. So what I'm going to start off by doing is just defining what is SD1. There's a lot of buzzwords. It's like IoT, it's like AI. People have various perceptions of what it is. Software-defined wide area networking, in essence, is virtualizing your network edge, which is similar to what you've been doing, which is now standard practice, I think, in the ICT industry, of virtualizing your computing and storage systems. But you can take it a step further and you can virtualize your network platform. Well, the way it does this is one, independent of the underlying technology. You do not need to have anything. You can have your basic connectivity, be it LTE, VSAT, fiber, or MPLS links. You can virtualize that. And then what you can create is you can create a virtual overlay network on top of your existing infrastructure, which can dynamically respond to your business needs. That is what software-defined networking is about. And one of the key things is it allows high performance ones using low-cost internet links. I think that's an oxymoron. How do you achieve that? You will find the traditional way of rolling out ones has been that you need to get an MPLS network, a dedicated point-to-point link. So you've got a branch in Rusape, and you need to connect it to your data center, which is housed in Harare. You've been paying through the nose for a dedicated, maybe 1 meg, 2 meg link, so that that traffic can come back to the HQ and access services that are sitting there. Mainly because of also security concerns. But SD1 allows you to use the available internet connections wherever your branch or wherever your remote staff are located, and be able to provide resilience, reliable connectivity, and good performing links. So that is what is SD1. Why do we want SD1? It lowers cost. How? As I've just alluded to, the typical one architecture is that you backhaul traffic back to the what? To the HQ. And then from there, you can either access resources located at the HQ, maybe in the data center of the HQ, or you can then use the HQ internet link to go on any cloud hosted services. SD1 breaks that, right? It allows you to use the internet using end-to-end encryption and allow you to control the security policies at your remote branches and allow the branch to break out immediately from its location straight to the cloud without having to backhaul. So you automatically do not have the high cost of the backhaul services. You can use 3G, you can use LTE, you can use VSAT. For some of your branches, you may find they may be located in remote areas where you can't find maybe high-speed fiber connections. but you should be able to leverage that with SD-WAN. It improves bandwidth efficiency. One of the key things about SD-WAN is that you can bundle multiple connections and have them act as one. So you're bonding, you can bond connections, either multiple connections from one service provider or multiple connections from multiple service providers. I think it's standard practice. If you're going to be deploying a service with resilience, is that you've got to have two as a minimum, two links as a minimum. Some of you have it that it has to be on two different service providers. But you're faced with a challenge. How do you operate these two links as one? So you end up doubling up. Maybe you have a requirement for a 10 meg link, but what you end up doing, you end up getting two 10 meg links. With SD-WAN, you can end up buying 5 meg, and you bundle them up. Right. So it improves bandwidth efficiency. It's also policy-based in the sense that it's able to understand, right, the best link to use from your different links that you've got. So you may have a remote site and you've got LTE there and you've got possibly VSAT. You can then bundle the two links, and these are all breaking out straight to the internet. They don't have to come back to the HQ. They'll break out to the internet directly from there. And you'll be able to set up policies which allows, because the SD-WAN will have the intelligence to continuously monitor the links and know which one is the best performing for particular applications. Improve cloud application performance, I've talked about that. Simplified network management. The traditional way of doing our ones is that we're deploying a router, a switch, and possibly a firewall at all our branches. So imagine a company, maybe Pick n Pay. Maybe it's got about 10, 15 branches nationwide. And you've got these 3 devices all distributed there. So that's 3 times 15, that's 45 configurations that have to be managed by the network administrator. And usually, in the traditional way is that this is all done manually. Logging into each device, setting up a config, you log into the next one, you set up a config. With SD-WAN, all this is integrated into one management platform. And you end up having one window, one GUI that you log into, and you're able to manage all your branches, your edge devices that are on your branches, and be able to globally set policies and be able to push them to all the sites. Scalability. One of the key things about SD-WAN is that you do not, firstly, you bundle all these 3 devices I've talked about, your router, your switch, and your firewall, you bundle it up into one device. And the technologies, the SD-WAN technologies, allow for plug and play configuration, because they are based on configurations that sit on the cloud. So what you end up doing is you end up being able just to send a device, the device gets there, it logs onto the internet, and then it auto-configures. So you're able to scale and have as many branches as you need. And then security. Reliability, obviously, has come through from having multiple links that you can bundle as one, and as one drops, you continue to use the other one automatically without you having to interfere. And then security and data privacy. Security is inbuilt in SD-WAN. SD-WAN obviously uses IPsec, which is trusted, well trusted. But what happened? The main thing, the difference is that SD-WAN will be able to dynamically, right, as demand requires it, create these tunnels for you. And 2, it's got the same, it's got the same functionality that you have to create virtual routing and forwarding domains. Okay, let me move on. Okay, so there are primarily three architectures that companies can adopt when it comes to SD-WAN. The first one is an on-prem solution. So the on-prem solution is whereby you deploy SD-WAN CPEs at your branches. And then through deploying these SD-WAN CPEs, you are able to create your virtual overlay network, but you do not have access to the cloud. The branches are now able to dynamically create connections to each other or create connections to the HQ. The second one is a cloud-enabled SD-WAN. Cloud-enabled SD-WAN will use obvious on-prem devices, but there will be a virtual gateway in the cloud, which then connects you to software as a service services like your AWS, your Office 365. If you've got VMs on Azure, you can able to log on to them through that. So how that one now will work is that as you want to access your cloud applications, you will use a virtual gateway that will then secure your connections to your cloud-based applications. The third type of SD-WAN is cloud-enabled with backbone. Now with cloud-enabled with backbone, this one's an interesting one. What happens is, in addition to having your gateway, your virtual gateway on the cloud, which connects you to cloud platforms, you can leverage on your service provider's network, right, to reach workloads that are far away from your locations. Let me explain a bit. So the cloud gateways are dotted around globally, and you could be hosting your application, let's say from a data center, which is in the UK. And you are here in Zim. So when you're wanting to access that workload, you would want to connect to the workload, which is in the UK, by connecting to the gateway in the UK. But with cloud enabled, with backbone, you will connect to a local gateway, right, which is hosted in Zimbabwe. And then through an MPLS link between the gateways, which is now private, which increases your user experience, because you now have reduced latency. You are no longer using the internet to traverse all the way to get to your workload, which is in the UK. That is the third option. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that in my next slide. So I'm going to talk about VeloCloud. Now, VeloCloud is an SD-WAN offering, which is anchored on VMware. What VMware has done is they've deployed over 3,000 SD-WAN gateways globally in the top data centers. So if you end up having a workload and for one reason or the other, it's hosted in Australia, any data center in Australia, right? What will happen now is when you're wanting to connect to it, you will use a locally hosted gateway here in Zim. So already you then cut down on your latency over the internet to go to Australia. You all appreciate that the global internet latency conditions change for whatever reason. So it is important that you have a local SD-WAN node in your region. And then what it does, it uses a private MPLS link, which bypasses the internet to send through your traffic across. So VeloCloud was developed by VMware, and as Mtande, we've partnered with the distributor of VeloCloud, and we are able to offer ETA in Zimbabwe. We're able for you to connect to any workload globally, taking advantage of all the SD-WAN benefits. The VeloCloud comprises of three main components. What you will see is the first thing is there is a, I think let me start off with the edge component. I think I referred to it a little bit a few minutes ago. Ideally, when you're deploying SD-WAN, what you're going to find is you're going to have a physical device that you're going to need to place within your network. You can either place it in front of your existing routers, or you can even remove your existing routers and connect that device and then plug it into your network. This edge device is the one that talks to the virtual gateways that are sitting in the cloud. So that's the second component, the virtual gateways. Now, to centralize all this management, for you to end up having a single window through which you can manage all your sites, there is what's called the orchestrator. The orchestrator is now a portal that also sits on the cloud, that's accessible everywhere. And it allows you now to define policies across your network globally and be able to push those policies down. Sorry, right back. Okay, so this just, I hope this slide is visible to the delegates. This is just a depiction of what actually transpires. On the left-hand side there, you've got your branch sites, and you can see those green bars. Those green bars depict the links that you have at your branches. So there could be 2, 3, 4. So that's your those are your multi-paths that you've got that go to the internet. And that's where you will see you've got your edge device sitting, and your edge device will connect to the internet. It will also have the ability to use an MPLS network, an MPLS link, sorry, back to your data center if you want to maintain your MPLS. It will go to the public cloud, and in the public cloud, you will see there are the VeloCloud gateways that sit there. One will connect you to your SaaS, software as a service, and then the other one, you can also deploy a gateway for your own private cloud. So that what happens is customers can come through, or your users can come through the internet through that gateway and then into your private cloud. And then the orchestrator sits right at the top. What the orchestrator does is it's got the global view of all the edge devices that you've declared and put in your SD-WAN. And then you're able, through that single view, to manage all of them. And you'll be able to get reporting, monitoring, change configurations. And you do not need to be hopping in and out multiple devices. What are the benefits of VeloCloud? I will highlight a few key ones that I think may be relevant to the delegate. Traffic segmentation. I think this is a key problem that most organizations face, whereby at the branch, you've got a link or you've got multiple links at the branch. And at the branch, people want to bring their own devices. You've got, obviously, the organization devices, and then you've got a guest network. And people struggle with how then to segment that traffic. As I have alluded to, VeloCloud, the CPE device has got the functionality for you to then declare various layer 3 domains on it and then assign different policies to it. So what do I mean by that? You'll be able to say, okay, this particular IP address subnet, for example, is my business critical subnet. This one is for the Wi-Fi network for people who bring their own devices home. So you want to enable your staff members to still do their WhatsApp when they are at work, but you know what? It's not critical stuff. It's not critical traffic. And then also we've got guest traffic, whereby you have visitors at branches that may want to be able to access, Wi-Fi services. And through traffic segmentation, you are able to separate that traffic. You are able to set policies in place to say, okay, out of my two, if you've got 2 links, out of my 2 links, right? What I would like to do is I would like to prioritize traffic on this particular segment. You can even go further and prioritize application traffic to say, okay, on my critical network, these applications, maybe those are your POS applications, these are priority. And what SD1 is able to do is to dynamically keep checking and ensure that those policies are being adhered to. And if you get a network outage on one link, it will dynamically reprioritize and ensure that your critical applications remain running. And then there is quality of experience and performance assurance. Quality of experience. I think the keynote presenter talked about quality of user experience. Now, some of the technologies, the mechanisms that are being put on SD1 are to ensure that your users have the quality of experience. Quality of experience. There's a difference between quality of experience and quality of service. Because you may have links that have poor quality of service, but that does not mean that your users should have poor quality of experience. So there are inbuilt mechanisms, in particular the dynamic multipath optimization, which I just want to show you its impact. All right. So dynamic multipath optimization. These 2 videos, they show you on a single link. The left side is without a Velo Cloud SD1. You can even do this without having multiple links at your location. You're finding out because links are mainly affected by jitter, packet loss, and latency. And SD1 devices, CPEs, they've inbuilt mechanisms and techniques to be able to remediate against that so that the user experience is improved. Those 2 are using the same link at 2% packet loss, but the other one is using some of the remediation techniques that are there, that are inbuilt in SD1. And you can see that clearly on the right side, the user experience is much better. Let me just go to my few last slides. I think I'll jump the slide. Okay, I'll come to the end. So I think the question is SD1 right for you? Some people have, because people say they already achieve some of the benefits with their existing infrastructure. But I just want you to consider something. If you can consider these 8 points, do you have a significant portion of your network that is reaching end of life? SD1 devices, they are at almost half the cost of maintaining your high-end router, switch, and firewall. This cost saving is coming through because they're using open platforms, right? And they've decoupled the hardware from the software. And you're able to have advances in features happening on the software without impacting on the hardware. Need for rapid deployment of new locations. I think as IT professionals, I think you've been increasingly getting this pressure from the business the need to rapidly deploy new sites in post-pandemic. One of the key things that is happening is obviously you've got people working from home, and you need to have technologies in place that ensure those people work securely and get the quality of experience that you need, that they deserve. And then obviously increasing network complex and network availability redundancy. I would bet my last dollar that I think almost all the IT professionals that are here, you have this as a daily thing. And SD1 can solve that for you. It's a real problem that can be solved by SD1. And application performance issues, I think this is also a daily thing, especially accessing workloads that are on the cloud. And then I think this is a general one for our country, lack of network expertise and experience in-house. There's been a huge brain drain. So what Velo Cloud does will help you, and Dandit on Tande will help you, is to ensure that we can help you solve these pain points that I've just had. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. So please, Martin, if you can just walk up for the question time here. Everybody is joining you there. So before we invite our presenters for the question time, I would like to extend gratitude to the following sponsors who made it possible for the conference to happen: Oracle, Liquid Intelligent Technologies, ICGL, Professor, London Tunde, PowerTel, Anitus, Finite, Glory Media, and lastly, Tamani Technology Systems. So if I can invite our presenters to walk up. You have another mic, please. So first of all, thank you for all your presentations. I know this is the time where I ask the audience to throw some questions. Our theme has been rethinking the future, leveraging on the emerging technologies. I think from data is gold, digital transformation and its importance in innovation, security, why it's important, especially in data analytics. Everything has to be fired up by connectivity, but also we need ethical organizations, and governance is important and something which we must not forget. Okay, let's kickstart. We're only 10 minutes away from lunch, so just rev up, engage those right at the end there. If you can give a mark to him there.
So I'm Gibson from East Solutions. I wanted to start off with a comment with the presentation maybe mainly to do with the issue of upskilling. And I think let me think. So I'm passionate about young people in the industry. Actually did some lecturing as well at the UZ in the computer department. So I would like to emphasize that, you know, with innovation, a lot of organizations, we're doing a lot of pushing about public sponsoring it, but we are forgetting that the key is always on the skills that on the people that we have. So even I really have been disappointed many times. I get a lot of my students going for attachment, And IT leaders who are in this room, they don't even mentor and train these youngsters. So youngster goes to attack.
Sorry, if I may interrupt.
Yes.
Is this a comment or a question?
It's a comment.
Because we just
And
have
I
10
heard
minutes.
the-
Can you
Okay, so-
just launch the question, please, given the time we have? Sorry about it.
All right, okay, that's fine. So that was about that. So, I was just encouraging, saying, yeah. And then the second comment is going to the presentation done by lady from FIP on the that this is a question now. She talked about us including women in ICT. And just as I spoken about in my other role, the challenge I have noticed is where the ladies who are even at university studying ICT, and you notice that at university probably the same ratio as the males, right? But what I've noticed is they seem to struggle with the idea that they can also excel in IT, especially in programming. They kind of have this idea that it's not for ladies. So what are you doing, maybe as part of what are you doing to encourage our girl children to say this is actually, that is something for you? So it's not just sitting on the men giving them disadvantages, but actually themselves with their belief. Thank you.
That's was another long-winded question. I'm trying to distill what was the question. Did you pick it up? What we're doing for women to promote them in
So yes,
ICT.
I take your point that we've got to first of all get women into IT. So we've got to improve the pipeline. And the way that I believe we have to do that, and I've been working on this for a long time, is we have to make sure that girls understand what the opportunities are. Because, and the way we do that too, we've got to let them understand that IT is used to solve practical world problems. Because you see, girls aren't geeks. Sorry, we have in Cape Town girl geek dinners, but on the whole, girls aren't geeks. So we've got to look at encouraging them around how IT is used to solve real world problems like healthcare, like agriculture. So we've got to actually reframe how we put IT to encourage girls to come into the industry. I was involved with the Computer Olympiad competition in Cape Town, in South Africa, actually, for many years. And I still remember a lovely young woman who was in the top 12. And we very rarely, so to your point, we very rarely get women at all, girls in the top 12 at all. But she said to me, I don't know what those guys are talking about. So when these geeks got together, she felt totally excluded. We then introduced a competition, that's the Programming Olympiad. We introduced a competition called the Applications Olympiad, which attracts far more girls because it's about using application software to solve business problems. And believe me, they're tough problems. The girls do very well and very often are the top. So it's more about, I think girls are more about solving business problems and real world problems than writing esoteric algorithms. Thank you.
All right. Any more questions? So please, no comments, but questions. Maybe short. One in the middle here. Speak back the mic about this coming.
Thank you. My name is Mahmoud Sel from Procom Technologies. My question is in line to the theme of the event, Rethinking the Future. What are we doing, or what strategies do you have in place to ensure that the youth taken care of in terms of gaining the principle, the vision, or all the challenges that have been articulated here? For example, lack of better leadership, financial articulation, and so forth.
All right, anybody to take that?
I think, quite simply and very directly, the issue of learnership and exposures. I commend your society for these annual get-togethers. I think the capacity to network and link, and then also learn from what other companies are doing. I mean, Blessing's presentation, for example, I thought was very practical. I'm more for the practical approach. But directly, I go out as going to say to you directly, what are you perhaps as the, ICT manager within your organization or director, because I'm told that the big guys are the big guns are the ones that are here. I think it's an introspective question to say, what am I doing about my own leadership skills, and what is my own continuous learning runway? And immediately I'll say I'm available. Why? Because I'm dabbling in your space. I'm teaching you how to be more productive. I'm teaching you how to manage your time. I'm teaching you how to manage your personal finances. I'm teaching and challenging you to scale up beyond, what was a backroom sort of job? Have you thought of retirement? I'm teaching and encouraging you to mentor others. That's what I do. When I retired from banking, I knew that my experience of 20 years in investment banking was too good and rich just throw away. So I've been to the top of the mountain and also to the bottom of the ocean and scraped the bottom of the ocean, so to speak. Now, a person might say, well, what good is that? But each experience on the way up, the experience at the top, the experience on the way down, the experience at the bottom of the barrel, in a merger which collapsed, and then having to pick myself up as an individual, I think offers a rich experience that's not comparable to anyone. I don't know anyone who's been to the top of the hill and down again so quickly like I was. I mean, I became a director at 24, first bank director. At 28, I owned my own bank. 7 years later, I was fired from my job, got it back after 6 years, took it back to the London Stock Exchange, and then kicked out in a very spectacular and dynamic way. So I can mentor you. I can mentor you how to list a company. Now, that experience, I'm throwing it out that for you guys in your field, you've obviously gone through hell and back. I can imagine what Blessing could do. She could be a mentor and coach people. Now, what are we doing? What is she doing to coach young ladies, go through that experience? That enriches us. Look at us globally. I mean, Zimbabweans are found anywhere in the world. I went to Texas just last year. The data manager of a huge medical analytics company is a Zimbabwean. I mean, and these guys are found all over the world. The question is, can we amalgamate our experiences and exposures, and can we bring them back? And most importantly, can we monetize them for our own personal growth as well as the development of the nation? Thank you.
Also, John, any more questions to give to the lady right at the end there? Check to your left, the one with the speaker. There's Mike, sorry. Yes, that lady.
Thank you very much. My name is Sharai Dube. I'm coming from Tel One. And I just wanted to make a comment, I think, on the mentorship of girls. and probably I have a different view. If I look into this room, there are so many women, right? I'm also a girl, and I did high performance computing, probably the only person in the country who did high performance computing or supercomputing at master's level. I'm a girl. I also did a cybersecurity program with Stanford University, ranked 3rd globally, and I'm a Zimbabwean girl. So my first point when it comes to mentorship, the idea of separating a girl from a boy, that's where the first problem is. Because it then makes the girl feel as if there's an incapability that she has that is coming from the gender side. But whatever a guy can do, a girl can do. And when it comes to even writing algorithms, I actually think, and I'm biased, girls are more meticulous. Because on a day-to-day basis, we can solve so many problems at a given time as compared to the average guy. Sorry, guys, but this is the truth. So I have a problem when you present it in such a way as if gender has an influence to how we do things. You understand? I have respect on girls also have a softer side and they do well, maybe with sewing and things like that. Let me tell you what I do on a softer side. I rear cattle. I treat them like babies. But on a day-to-day basis, I'm writing code, and not just normal code, security code for high-performance computers, also known as supercomputers. So for me, the issue is not about being a girl or what. If you're mentoring, mentor a person as a person. It has nothing to do with gender. If they're into coding, they're into coding, girl or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's possibly the most powerful thing I've ever heard a woman say, and well done for all your accomplishments. I'm not saying for 1 minute girls can't do it, okay? I'm saying that we do sometimes have to make sure girls understand what computing is and the value of it, because they don't always. At school level, they don't understand it, but it's not about them not being able to do it. Please don't for 1 minute think I think that. I used to teach COBOL programming. So just to make that clear, but well done you.
Can I also cement what Moira has just said? I mean, the reality, and this is not to do with competence. And I'll be the first to tell you that I had 5 managing directors that were ladies within my groups. And I think I deserve a round of applause for that. And I can tell you that the competency levels are there. But out of the 5, there were also girls that failed. So be modest, my dear sister, in the sense that the reality, I'm a statistician. On the stock exchange, how many lady CEOs do we have? It's a fact. So unless we deliberately and intentionally pick them out and mentor them, guess what? They will fail spectacularly too. It's as similar as asking how many young Black men are running companies on the stock exchanges. Again, the chances are very few and far between. So if we don't intentionally mentor them, take them through and give them the best possible chance, guess what? They're going to fail. And when they fail in a spectacular fashion, people will have a bias against them. And so when we say ladies should be admitted to universities in a preferential way, we are just compensating for the historical lack thereof in terms of the opportunities. And so we are trying to even the playing field. And in doing so, I believe wholeheartedly as a practitioner that if you just leave them to their own competencies, the dynamics are very different. I run a program intentionally and direct, intentionally called Leadership for Women. Why? Because historically and globally, it's been studied and proven that the dynamics that women leaders face are very, very different from what men face, and that's a fact. So I hear you, I'm encouraged, congratulations, but let's not stop because the stats tell us a different story. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Janaka. And any more? Thank you. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to add to what the panelists have said about deliberately mentoring the ladies. There are certain imbalances, as Dr. Chirakira said. For example, with men, if you look when we are young boys in Zimbabwe, we have a natural academy in the rural areas where people are taught to fight, and they grow up because of where they're heading cattle. It's a daily thing. It's an academy, and not so formal academy. And as they grow up, you then find that Zimbabwe, when you go to Kilimanjaros, your Alfonso Zenikas, they are natural fighters, but they got this from this natural academy as they're growing up. So there are certain systems in our society that create imbalances, and this has affected the girl child. Not to say that men are natural fighters, are natural, maybe are better fighters than women when it comes to certain things, but because of these imbalances that have happened in our society, they put the ladies at a disadvantage. And it's seen on so many fronts. You find as a boy is growing up, he's seen as A and mentored by a father in a business. And yet the ladies are sidelined because they'll get married and things like that. So those are the things that the panelists are saying we need to deliberately take note of so that we can also even the playing field. We do know we have a lady boxing champion to you.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, it's very good. Any other questions? Tech side, Oracle, connectivity, which you want to raise? Right at the back, this side. Hold on. What side here? Is that Doc, you're raising your hand? Dr. G, I think anything? Then at the back there as well.
Thank you. I see the gentleman from Oracle. A fantastic presentation, by the way. I've got one serious issue and then one personal issue. The serious issue is my worry about Oracle is the pricing. And being in the education sector, I'm really saying that with a very heavy heart. You'll find that amongst the products which are actually there, it's very difficult to break into the education sector, which if I think you had a model which made it very easy for the Oracle, then it is actually then going to make it far much more usable in my opinion. And then on a personal matter, Arsenal was playing Chelsea over the weekend. And at the beginning, your stats predicted that Chelsea was going to beat Arsenal. There's something totally wrong with your data. And sorry, Nigel, I know you never walk alone.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions. I think it's good. The point you raised, I think I'm answering on the cost aspect. I think we understand that aspect of the cost. So what we try to do is bring the value of what it can. So important thing is what we see in a simple example. We see some customers are buying big machines and they don't really have need for that. But they're sizing it for 5 years. And the cost when they need to license everything becomes high. So our role is to come and say, you're starting right now, maybe education, maybe you don't have that need for that much. How can you optimize? how can we reduce the cost, help you reduce the cost? So these are the things where we want to bring values, not just go, just say, I need these big boxes because hybrids. You can also scale and do a roadmap way of how you want to use your solutions, licenses, and all of that. So this is where we can bring the value of don't go big bang. Start small, and then you grow with what you need also. Not necessarily you need everything in the box, maybe you need specific things. And this is where we can help you understand, and then what would eventually bring value to the organization. That's more important. Yeah. And for the stats, unfortunately, I haven't seen that much, so I won't be able to answer that. But I presume it will be garbage out.
Sorry, can I just make a closing remark about girls and then I'll be quiet? Women can do anything men can do, maybe even better, but then I'm biased. But they don't always know that they can do everything. That's the thing we've got to get across, that women and girls are capable of anything. They don't always know that. That's why the pipeline suffers. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? Right at the back there, to your left, yeah.
All right, I'm Benedict from. So my question is directed to Blessing and all the panelists. So you talked of the transformation that you've done for CMAS, which is splendid. But our major challenge that we face with other organizations is that these guys, they have got the ideas, but the challenge is now to convince those C-level team to say, how can we get that budget? So can you just give us briefly, how can we convince the C-level guys to give the budget for all this stuff that's required for the digital transformation?
Okay, thank you very much for that. So I think for us, the SEMAs, it was a good thing that the CEO gets it. So he then pushes it from his level. So you then see that personally with me, obviously advocating for all these initiatives, especially at budgeting season. So I know for me this year, it was a bit tough trying to budget for next year due to what's just happening in the environment, but it's all about in the data and the statistics. Sometimes it's clear that you have to do it. So what I can then advise is to actually go back to your processes and to the issues that you're facing as an organization and try and put numbers to it to then say, we will be able to save this much, or we would be able to improve our customer experience by this percentage, or the way that we work. Once you then put those numbers to your proposals or your justifications, people can then try and change the way they think. And then the other way to go about it is to then say, if you're to ask for a budget for 100,000 versus a budget of 10,000, obviously may be different. So maybe you can also start low if it's something that you're not already doing. Then at least start with 10,000, then make it a case study or a pilot, and then ideally the results would they need to speak for themselves. Thank you.
All right, I think given that we've covered a lot of the questions and that our time really is not on our side, we'd like to thank you all for attending this session, and a round of applause for our presenters here. And thank you so for the convener for telling us how we're going to run this lunch. For convener Blessing in the house.
They've got interesting faces. I think they're thinking about what do we do. I think lunch is, I think, what time is it now? It's about 1:30, right? 1:30. Ideally, we should have started at 2 o'clock. Can we try and encourage to be here about 2:15, please? So that we allow enough time for the others that are coming. The upcoming after lunch session is exciting. It's talking about the practicalities and some of the research work that has happened in the market. You don't want to miss this. I would really ask you to be on time because it allows us to really dig deeper. I know we've had breakfast, we've had a cup of tea. I think we can have a quick light lunch
because keep your stomachs empty. What's upcoming this evening is even heavier. So I think we can make it for 2:15. Tickets are available at the door as you walk out of here. You can pick up your tickets, but I think everything else is good. Thank you, everybody, presenters. Thank you.
I don't want to touch this.